This today we have Vince and Taylor. So Vince from our e-learning team and Taylor from the provost office are going to present how EAC can be used to track data that's needed for accreditation purposes. So I know this is something all of you in the College of Ed are using. It's something that we've been pushing out to our piloting and various new departments throughout the university. So hopefully this is useful, and hopefully the recording is useful for those who couldn't attend. So take it away.
Appreciate it, Justin. Thank you so much for inviting us to your BigByte today. My name is Vince St. Germain. I'm an e-learning and instructional technology specialist. I know many of you in the College of Education, and thank you for the opportunity, of course, to present on what is our new Blackboard assessment and accreditation solution. So part of what I'm going to be demonstrating is how we have the tool set up, how you can go about utilizing what are rubrics within your Blackboard courses for the purposes of actually scoring your students' performance. And then Taylor Boyd, who is with our Office of the Provost, is going to be actually walking you through the EAC tool, in which he will take a deeper dive or closer look at what is the actual data that you can collect and how you can go about interpreting that. And all faculty have the ability to do this at the actual course level. So this is something that you can leverage, that you can take advantage of, that you can build into a part of your regular routine as you evaluate student performance from what is the beginning of the semester right through the end of the semester. And of course, then the College of Education can also use that same rubric data for the purposes of collecting information about how well students are doing, what areas might need improvement, and they are then going to, in turn, utilize that for assessment and accreditation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And of course, if you've got any questions or if there's anything that you're interested in learning a little bit more about, feel free to simply speak up. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions as we're moving through the various tools and their capabilities. And of course, for those of you who are watching this as a recording, if you need additional assistance or would like some one-on-one help, you can certainly reach out directly to me or Taylor, and we would be happy, once again, to walk you through the tool, its use, and how you can really take advantage of a solution that is hopefully going to be utilized university-wide for the purposes of gauging student performance and being able to collect that assessment and accreditation data. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. One of the things that we have done is that we have created within our Blackboard system a College of Education Rubrics Master Course. And as faculty who need access to all of the needed assessment rubrics, you are already or should be enrolled in this course for the purposes of being able to access the latest and most up-to-date rubrics that are available specifically for this purpose. The one thing that you do need to keep in mind is that once you have downloaded and then imported these rubrics into your individual Blackboard courses, you do not want to make any changes to the rubric title or any of the rubric criteria and achievement levels. It's very important that these remain consistent across all of your courses, across all of the various semesters that you might be utilizing these rubrics, in order to ensure that we're able to collect the necessary data or be able to aggregate it. And one of the ways that EAC goes about searching for and finding that data is based on the name as well as the actual rubric information itself. So you never want to make any changes to the rubrics that you're downloading from what is this master course. Now, of course, you can go in and make copies of these rubrics in your own individual courses. And if you chose to, you could modify those for your own internal or course purposes. So you just need to make sure that you're at that point, though, once you've created the copy, that you have actually changed the name of it So as there isn't any confusion then between the actual assessment rubric and the ones that you might be using for your own personal use. So I've already gone ahead and logged into what is the College of Education Master Rubrics course. And here in the course menu that's located down along the left-hand side, you can see we have various content areas. This includes the actual rubrics that you will be downloading and using in your courses, as well as additional information on how to go about deploying and scoring those rubrics based on whether or not they're going to be used for grading purposes or maybe as a secondary evaluation. There's additional information here on how you can actually use what is the EAC tool in your course. That's the actual course tool that allows you to then search for the rubrics and collect data from them, as well as a variety of other information. So, feel free to utilize this as a resource as needed if you have questions or just simply want to explore further opportunities around the use of what is the EAC tool. So just going down the list of item menus that we have, this in the rubrics content area, you'll note that we have a series of folders. These folders all have a program acronym that is associated with them. So depending on the course or section that you're teaching, you would navigate to the appropriate folder. You would just simply click into that folder. And then you're going to see various rubrics then that are utilized in conjunction with those particular courses and course sections. You'll notice that each course has an associated rubric, which is actually a zip file. One of the things that you do not want to do is to actually open up this zip file. You would just simply download it to your computer system and then navigate to what is your Blackboard course. And then you would import the rubric then directly into that course, utilizing what is the zip file. So there's no reason to open it up. It's a package. The entire package needs to be imported into your course in order for the rubric to be able to work and display correctly. So as you can see, there are a large number of rubrics here that are available to you. All of them, once again, based on those different program acronyms. We also have a how-to area of the course where you can gain access to additional resources and handouts that are related to the use of those rubrics. So if you're unfamiliar with how to go about downloading and then importing those rubrics into your course, we have a handout here that is related to that. Additional rubrics on how you can go about associating them directly with an assignment in your course. Once again, whether or not you're going to be utilizing that as a primary grading rubric or maybe just for secondary scoring purposes. And in that case, of course, you're going to be assigning the student a grade that is going to be different from what is the score that is going to be produced by the actual rubric itself. One of the things that EAC does is it actually doesn't care what the score of the actual rubric is, because it's collecting the data based on a 0 to 1 scale. So it's really designed to pull data or pull the selected achievement level, and then it's converting that to a score from 0 to 1. So the actual scores themselves don't matter so much unless you are actually going to be utilizing them then for actually grading what is your students. And you can see we've got a number of different handouts based on how you might utilize those within your course. We also have a Blackboard video here that you can also watch on how to actually grade rubrics within your individual courses. If you did want to create some rubrics on your own, of course, that opportunity is also directly available to you within each of your Blackboard courses. And just as these rubrics that are in the master course can be downloaded and imported into any course, any rubric that you create for your own purposes, you can also then share or import into any of the courses that you are currently teaching. We also have some documentation around the actual assessment and accreditation tool called EAC. Here you can see a variety of resources that show you how to interpret the data, how you go about the process of actually running the various reports. Now, in conjunction with the rubric and test information that is available through EAC, we also have the ability to align then rubrics and tests directly with university as well as accreditation, learning outcomes, and goals. So although we are still sort of in the early stages of setting up what is that goal structure within the EAC program as well as Blackboard, right now there isn't much data available around the actual goal information itself, but ultimately that's going to be utilized by the College of Ed administrators, for the purposes of ensuring that students are meeting those accreditation standards. And then also at the request of the college, we went ahead and we've also added some standards here as well, just supplemental information that you can utilize. This course should always have the most up-to-date and latest information around what is the use of rubrics as well as the actual rubrics themselves. So consider this a resource that you can or continuously have access to and can easily take advantage of. I'm sorry, I heard a notification. Was that someone joining us in the session, or does someone have a question at this stage?
Yeah, Vince, that was, I think it was Karen King joining us in the session. And I did want to point out, though, that Alex had a comment in the chat for us. If education faculty need to create or revise a rubric, they should contact his office to facilitate the revision. This ensures the rubric master copies on Blackboard remain current and consistent. Just in our accreditation reporting can track revisions, and that just aligns with your comment about having the latest version of any particular rubric from a program on course assessment in this particular Blackboard site.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Alex. Of course, the majority of the faculty in the College of Education are enrolled in this course as students, which means they don't have the ability to actually modify or access what is the control panel then that you would normally have access to as an instructor inside of a Blackboard course. So from that student perspective, and I'm just going to simply toggle my edit mode on and off here, you would then, in order to download a rubric, you would access that rubrics area of the course. You would click into the appropriate program acronym. You would then just simply click on the actual rubric itself here, and then you would download that to your computer. Now, as far as importing those rubrics, once you have it actually downloaded then to your computer system, what you would do then is navigate to the control panel or course tools area of your Blackboard course. You would select then what is the rubrics tool that is listed here. And of course, this particular course has all of the master rubrics associated with them. But here you can see across the very top, you've got that ability to import what is that rubric then that you just downloaded. And so by clicking on import rubric, what you have the ability to do then is to navigate to what is the actual rubric that you have now stored on your computer system. And just simply by selecting it, once again, the entire zip file or package, uploading that into your course. And from here then, you've actually got the ability, if you wanted to go in and actually take a look. You can just simply click the drop-down menu that is associated with the title of a particular rubric. You can go ahead and open up that rubric then, which opens it in a separate window. When you just simply open a rubric, it allows you to see the various criteria and levels of achievement that are associated with it, but it doesn't actually allow you to make any changes or edits to it. So this is a great way just to once again confirm that you do have or have downloaded what is the appropriate rubric that you are going to be utilizing in your particular course. Now, in order to associate a rubric that you already have in your course, you would either need to create an assignment or a manual column then within your actual course. What I'm going to do is to click into what is this assignments area of this particular course. Let me turn my edit mode back on so that I can have access then to my editing tools. And when hovering over assessments, I'm going to click what is that assignment option. So I'm just going to select demonstration assignment. Of course, you would provide instructions here to your students. As you scroll down, you have the ability to, of course, attach any additional files here that you want, add a possible due date. Now, depending on how you want to utilize this rubric, whether it's for scoring purposes or whether it's for secondary evaluation, you could either enter a point possible here. So let's say this particular assignment is worth 25 points, but I'm going to be utilizing what is a rubric then for the purposes of just simply scoring it so that we can have that data so that it can be aggregated as part of what is the assessment and accreditation needs then of the College of Education. I'm hovering over Add Rubric. I'm selecting then a particular rubric. I'm navigating through the various rubrics that I have available in my rubric area of the course. I'm clicking on a rubric, and here I'm clicking on a rubric that is not actually one that is utilized for any accreditation purposes. This is strictly for demonstration. That way we're not potentially skewing any data that might be collected. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And this is where I can click OK to assign the rubric's maximum points as the points possible. Now, if you recall, I'm using this for secondary grading purposes or evaluation purposes. So at this stage, I would just simply want to click the Cancel button. That's going to add the rubric. It doesn't modify the original 25 points that I'm going to be giving the students as a score for this particular assignment. One thing that I do want to do, though, is you'll notice that once it's attached the actual rubric, and here you can go in and you can view that rubric, once again, just to confirm that you have the correct rubric associated with this particular assignment. But in the type dropdown, I'm going to select the used for secondary evaluation purposes. And do I want to show this rubric to the students? Typically, if it's being used in that secondary evaluation mode, you're not going to be showing this to the students, although you may very well want to do that. Now, as far as additional submission details, I mean, this is just like any other standard assignment that you would create within your course, and then you would just simply go ahead and click Submit. So we have our demonstration assignment with the secondary evaluation rubric already associated with it. Now, I've already done that here with some other assignments that I've actually gone in and interacted with from what is a student perspective. So when it comes time to actually grade these assignments, what I'm going to do is to navigate down to what is the full grade center. And let me go ahead and scroll down to my student preview account. There it is. And you can see that under the sample assignment assessment that I had previously created, we have the needs grading icon. So if I were to click the drop-down arrow that was associated with it, I would go ahead and click the actual attempt itself. Here I have the ability to view then the student submission in line. Of course, you have the various annotation tools that are available to you, so you can directly mark up then what is that student's submission, providing them feedback directly within the document. Here then I can expand in the panel on the right what is the grading details view, And what I've got the ability to do then is to provide the student with some overall feedback right here in the feedback to learn a box. Remember, now this particular assignment is worth 50, whereas the demo assignment I created was only worth 25. In this case, though, I am using my rubric for secondary evaluation purposes. So I've gone through, I've marked up the student's document, I've provided them with some overall feedback. I've gone ahead and I provided that student then with what is going to be a score then for the assignment, which they will receive as part of their actual course grade. But what I also want to do in conjunction with this is I want to use the rubric then for evaluating the student's performance so that it can be collected for what is that assessment purposes. And you've got two different methods for being able to open up then what is this rubric. You can either choose the icon, which allows you to view that rubric in its own separate window, or you can click on the title of the rubric to actually show it here then in line. Makes it a little bit easier to be able to once again sort of navigate through the document as you are actually scoring this particular student. You can click the option to show the various descriptions that are associated with it. You can also show some the feedback options here as well. So as an instructor, obviously this particular rubric is not going to be viewed by the student. So any feedback that you provide here would only be seen by your administrators when they are actually collecting this rubric data within EAC. I would go about then scoring this particular student. I could also submit some overall feedback then as well. Now, remember, the score within EAC means absolutely nothing because it's normalizing all of the rubric rows or columns between a value of 0 and 1. So what I'm going to do then is, because I've completed this rubric, I've gone ahead and scored the student's performance, I'm going to go ahead and click Save Rubric. What that's going to present me with then is an option to use this rubric as a grading rubric. No, I don't want to do that. I'm simply going to go ahead and click Cancel. But what that does is it still saves that rubric scoring that I just completed. And you can see there was a little pop-up message. It's very quickly, but I can also just simply click back into what is this rubric. And you can see it did save my scores. I'm saving it once again, canceling out of that. Rubric evaluation was saved as a draft, and that's all that's necessary in order to be able to collect the data within EAC. It did not modify the student's overall attempt. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And what that does then is it adds the student's score then to what is the grade center for the course, and at the same time saves the rubric then so that it can be, as I said, collected within what is EAC.
Vince, real quick.
Any questions around the use or scoring of rubrics in your course?
Rick had a question about course copy. So if you course copy semester after semester, do you need to set this up again, or is it okay? Assuming you hit the select all button when you course copy.
That is correct. As long as you're using that select all, and of course, we highly recommend that you use that select all option when you are completing a course copy. What that does is it ensures then that all of your content, including any rubrics, as well as all the columns that you have within your grade center, will automatically be copied over to the course. So there's no reason to have to go through this process. Now, the only reason you might have to make modifications then in what would be your upcoming course would be if there were changes to the actual master rubric that would require you then to once again navigate back to what is this rubrics master course and download what is the latest and greatest version then of that particular rubric. And I would imagine that Alex, Amy, or Jeffrey would be notifying then the appropriate faculty about any changes or updates that were being made to rubrics so that you could ensure that you were using the most latest version. So that's how you would grade an assignment. We do have a manual column here for grading a rubric. I just want to show you this very quickly. I've already created what is this manual column within the course. If I go in to edit the column information, once again, you've got that ability to actually associate a rubric then with this particular column. It doesn't have to be directly associated with an assignment. And depending on whether or not maybe the student is submitting this separately, maybe you're using a Google as part of your student's submission and their project or their presentation or document is located there. In that case, you would just simply create a column within your Blackboard course. You would associate the needed rubric, and there you would go ahead and score it. And with any column, one of the things that you can do, of course, is you can set whether or not the column is included as part of the grade center calculations, or whether or not you actually want to show that column to students. So once again, it really just simply depends on your specific assessment requirements within the actual course itself, whether or not you want the students to be able to see what is the rubric or the column or the grade that's associated with it, or whether it's just strictly for that secondary evaluation purposes.
So Vince, if I could just break in here, that's a really important point, because some of us have courses whereby we are asking them to complete assignments, and I'll just, for my particular program, and actually many programs at the graduate level, there are internships or practicums that students are completing, and they're completing responses to assignments. This is a really good strategy for that, in whereby you can then at the end of the course go back into that separate column and provide the accreditation data in terms of their proficiency based on the ratings that you're going to put in. And it does not have to be attached to a particular assignment within the course. So that provides a lot of efficiency, where you can look across all of the assignments that you've assigned in that particular course and then provide an overall rating in each one of the categories that we're using for the accreditation data.
Yep, absolutely. And that's a perfect way to handle it. As you say, it makes the whole evaluation process very streamlined, very simple. It's all done directly within your Blackboard course, and just makes that process, and of course ensures that the appropriate data is being collected at what would be, and it can be, you can actually score and submit that rubric at any time during the semester. So whether or not it's at the beginning, at the middle, or the end, I mean, obviously you've got opportunity to do it, based on the appropriate time within the semester, when you're going to be evaluating the actual student's performance. So now that we've actually scored a rubric within an actual course, one of the things that you will need to do is to, at this time, in order to access what is the EAC tool, you'll actually have to turn that on within your own individual courses. We are considering permanently turning on this tool, but it probably won't be until potentially the fall 2021 semester. At that time, you wouldn't have to go through what is this next step. But for now, in order for you to be able to access what is EAC from the instructor perspective, you do need to navigate to what is your control panel. You're going to scroll down to that customization area or tab. By clicking on customization, it opens up a variety of options that are available to you. And then you would just click on what is the tool availability tab. Here, you're going to see all of the possible tools that are available to you as an instructor within your Blackboard course. And they're all listed here in alphabetical order. So this makes it very easy to be able to navigate to and to be able to access then what is the EAC visual data option. What I'm going to do is, you can see here that currently the box is unchecked, indicating that the tool is not available. But by clicking or checking that box and then clicking the submit button, what I'm able to do now is to expand what is the course tools area of my control panel, and you'll see that the EAC visual data option or tool is now available to you. And by clicking on that, what it's going to do is to go ahead and open up then what is the tool, so that you can then conduct your search and begin to generate reports around how your students perform. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn things over to Taylor so that he can actually walk you through the use of what is the EAC tool and how you can go about then utilizing it for bringing up those rubrics and then using the report information then to gain further insights into your students' overall performance. Just before we pass it over though, are there any other questions just simply around the use of rubrics within what are your Blackboard courses? All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and we'll go ahead and turn it over to Taylor.
Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just give me 1 second. And so as Vince was saying, I'm here in the EAC tool, and you can see on the left side of the screen, you have test, rubrics, goals, and then settings. When you access the EAC tool in your course, up here, you should see an instructor mode. Here is where we can search for various names of specific rubrics and or test. This is where the naming convention is imperative, and we're not wanting anyone to make any of those changes to the names of the rubric because this is how we search for them in this EAC tool. So for this demonstration, I'm going to search EDS 652. Now, we want to be specific again in this tool when we're searching. So EDS 652, more often than not, it's going to be the name of the course. Something to note here is to change the date range in which we are gathering and collecting the information from. So I'm going to go back to January 1st of 2021, and I'll run the report through today's date. Now, something that's important to note here is that I'm still on test, right? And so if I want to look specifically at rubrics, I want to go into the rubrics tab. I can see that my date range is still the same, and I'll go ahead and click go. And so it's going to pull up any information, any rubric specifically here with the name EDS 652. I can see that here in the name of the rubric. I can ensure that, I am myself, whoever the instructor is, whatever rubric I'm looking up. And I can see, again, the name of the rubric and the specific course. Now, if I want to look at some of the information that's collected for the specific rubric, again, I'm just going to click on the rubric name. And now I'll see a number of items pop up. And we're just going to go through this screen really quickly. Again, there's a menu bar on the left side of the screen. Right now, we can see that we have courses included, opened, this little minus symbol here, and a summary of statistics. Right? There are a number of other items that we can open, and we'll get into those in just a moment. If you'd like to close a specific piece, the plus and minus button kind of retracts things. This summary of statistics just gives you a general overview. Like Vince was saying earlier, the rows here, there's a value of 4. And so how the EAC tool kind of runs its summary of statistics is that it takes each individual row, it gives it a value of 1, and then it does some statistical analysis on that. So we can see that the possible item scored is 44, which is the scored evaluations value times the number of rows, gives us a possible item score and the actual item score. Again, our highest score could be a 4. That means that I got a 1 on each of the individual rows that's being scored. And our lowest score is a 3, which means that someone did not score the highest on each row given. Again, some mean, median, and standard deviation. All of these look pretty solid. And then you have your KR20 value, which gives you the reliability of the specific rubric as a whole, as it discriminates against high achieving students and low achieving students. So when we select row analysis, we've gone over the summary of statistics. You can see that this specific rubric has some in-task goals associated with it. And now we're able to see what I like to say is the good stuff, right? This is some of the data. This is, our levels of achievement for specific students. And we can see here as we hover over that 90.9% of students are proficient in this specific in-task goal number 2. We can see as we keep going down and we hover over, we can see where students are proficient, developing, unsatisfactory, and not met. So this is a nice visual aid here. But again, as we open up different pieces of this menu bar on the left side of the screen, we can now look at individual students. How are these students performing specifically? What was their total, that 1 to 4? And then what's the peer average? Some differentiation, and then how they scored on each row. And so this might help an individual faculty member go over this specific rubric with a student in a one-on-one session. It gives an idea of how students in the class are performing, how other students are performing against other students. And then again, just that row by row breakdown. So if I wanted to look at this specific student, we could talk about this specific in-task goal and why they show that they're developing on this specific rubric. Again, some of the details, these are the specific rubric rows. And as you scroll over, again, just a different display of who is proficient and who is developing in a chart form. And once we make the association with some of these goals, and I'll go into this goals manager, then we'll be able to see some data here as well. Right now, some of the goals are not set up for this specific rubric, but we'd be able to see some information similar to what you see in student rows and the row analysis in some of the goal settings piece as well. So I'll stop there momentarily. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Any data points that someone didn't see that they might have wanted to see, or questions about anything that we've gone over so far?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions for you, Taylor.
Yep.
When the student section that you were showing, is this an actual course?
Yes.
Okay. And then also in the summary statistics section, what is the when you look at the value, what's the threshold that we want the value of the rubric to be at in terms of the it says 0.73 there. Is it 0.70 that we want to achieve?
Generally, anything over a 0.5
okay
is going to be in a quality range for the KR20.
Okay, thank you.
You do have the ability there located at the top, the upper left, or excuse me, right-hand corner next to the downloads. You can actually set a target there, which is going to give you, basically show students as whether or not they're proficient or underperforming. So, I mean, you can actually modify that target level based on, whatever your particular accreditation standard is. I mean, if students need to have a minimum score of 80%, then you could actually change that target there. And that's going to affect some of the graphic data that you're able to generate in terms of, overall how students are performing against this particular rubric. Taylor, if you want to go ahead, please, I'm sorry, and go ahead and just change that, maybe increase it to 80% to a 0.8, and then we'll see how that might affect some of those pie charts that were generated in one of the other options. Well, maybe not necessarily that particular report.
So we're seeing, students did well on this particular rubric, but here you can see this row 3 in test 8 that some of the proficiency has gone down, and some students are now in that developing piece. These charts look just slightly different, just because we raised the threshold there, or we raised the target. And so again, to Vince's point up here, just to the right of this target, you can see some of the download pieces. So you can download just the summary here. You can download a standard report, or you can download the full report in Microsoft Excel. So that's if individuals are wanting to disaggregate data even more, compile data for different classes or something like that, or just keep the data for your own personal instructor use, then these are some of those options here as well.
Just as a note, you do need to be careful when you are downloading what is that full Excel report, because that is going to include a variety of personal student data and information, including what is each individual student's G number. So that is information that you are going to want to ensure is safely stored either on the university network. Obviously, you're not going to want to share that with anyone outside of your particular organization, or anyone that shouldn't have access to that information, because it could potentially be a FERPA violation. So just take a look at those different reports. And typically, I mean, if there is a report that you did want to share amongst your colleagues that didn't necessarily have any student information associated with it, it would be what is that standard report then that's available in what is that Microsoft Word format.
And like Vince was saying, when you're downloading some of those reports, there's options there to redact some of that information. So if you did want to share that with some of your colleagues, that's also a potential option there. So I mentioned really quick just this goals manager piece. There's options to associate goals specifically with rubrics, with rubric rows, with test. And I just wanted to show you this piece here. We don't have anything associated quite yet, but you can see when I go into the College of Education, I'm looking at the College of Education external accreditors, you can see that we've created a structure here, and we've been working with Alex, Jeffrey, and Karen for quite some time to create a structure of specific goals, specific external accredited standards. And you can see all of these listed here. And then there's a naming convention. So it goes really deep. And there's an option here to really get some rich and robust data if we're looking at specific in-task goals, or if we're looking at some type of other accrediting goals. The structure is here, right? So the information that you are seeking potentially for an individual course, for a specific rubric, I think that we'll be able to find a solution within this specific tool. So again, there's a number of tools and availabilities and functionalities here within the EAC tool. And like Vince was saying earlier, if there's a piece of information that a specific faculty member is trying to request or trying to get a specific data point, just reach out to us. And I think that we should be able to figure something out, create some reports, and show you how to navigate through the EAC tool to get the intended results that you're looking for. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to stop sharing now. And just open it up, just general comments, questions, anything for the good of the order. And then I'll let Vince give his last remarks as well. Anything from anyone?
So obviously, oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to ask Taylor, you probably have some pioneers or innovators within the university who are using the EAC tool. What are you generally seeing from faculty members when they are using this tool? How are they using it, or what kind of uses have you been seeing?
Yeah, and Vince jump in here as well, but we have piloted this tool with 4 or 5 different entities. So sometimes that's a college, sometimes that's a specific program. I think more often than not, we're seeing this for those external accreditation goals, standards, and associating those standards or goals specifically to a rubric, specifically to a test, some type of assignment within a specific course. but also we're looking at specifically with one program, tracking individual students or cohorts and seeing their level of proficiency and competency within a specific standard. And so that's really what we're seeing. More often than not, people are using the summary of statistic report or the detailed student reports. Again, that example of meeting with the student one-on-one potentially to, that comes more so in the idea of a test, looking at specific test questions. Is everyone in my class getting the same question wrong? Looking at those point by serials on specific questions. Are my high achieving students getting this question wrong? Where my low achieving students are getting this question right? Those are some of the more specific data points that faculty are really digging into outside of the larger unit level or course level. Hey, where are students proficient? Where are they not?
Okay, thanks. Because I'm just thinking out loud and just trying to get some ideas in terms of at a program level. One of the things that I'm thinking about is using this tool with our program to review, like, to more of a progress monitoring strategy, looking at our courses and looking at students' performance across a particular course or all of the courses within our program. And as a program, our faculty looking at that data to, ask a number of questions. Is this assessment giving us the information we want? Does it need to be revised? How are our students doing within the standards that are assigned to this assessment? So that's, to me, it's, I guess that seems like an application for this particular tool as well.
Yeah, I think this tool has the opportunity to provide you with all of those results, the answers to all of those questions that you're asking. And yeah, I think that we can find a solution here for sure.
Thank you.
So one of the things to keep in mind is that all faculty have the ability to use EAC at the individual course level. So when Taylor opened up what was the actual EAC tool, he initially pointed out that mode drop-down menu. He is actually in the system as an enterprise administrator, which gives him access to all of the data across all of the courses within our Blackboard system. As an instructor, you only have access to that data that for those courses that you are enrolled in as an actual instructor. But there are levels within Blackboard's hierarchy that we have configured that can allow specific faculty to have access to more data than just their instructor level courses. So if that's necessary, I mean, that's obviously something that we can review and we can discuss. I mean, Alex, Karen, Amy, Jeffrey, they all have what is called EAC administrator access. So they have the ability to actually go in and take a look at course data across the entire College of Education program. And so for them, who, that part of what their responsibility is to collect that data across a semester, across multiple semesters, across multiple years, they've got the ability to be able to do that. But, if necessary, we can certainly provide other faculty with additional access, either around specific courses or at a much higher level if that's what's required or needed. So we can certainly work through that, and something that we can discuss and set up if needed.
Any other comments or questions for Taylor or Vince? Thank you guys so much for this presentation and webinar this morning. Very insightful.
Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity. We see EAC and its use within Blackboard as an assessment and accreditation solution as a very important tool for both the College of Education as well as for the entire university. And part of what our plan is to try and roll this out as much as possible across the entire university so that everyone can take advantage of the data that is available by utilizing both rubrics as well as tests that they may already have within their Blackboard courses. So we can ultimately see this as a single solution that the university is going to be utilizing for all of what will be their assessment and accreditation needs. I know that's a kind of a bold goal, but that's what Taylor and I have been working on. And once again, we're more than happy to meet with all of you individually, or once again, as part of your departmental meetings, just in order to ensure that you have the needed information in order to be able to fully take advantage of it.